All right, welcome all. I hope everyone's having a nice day and staying warm. Thank you all for joining us tonight to our JFSA's Brain Health and Wellness Initiative series, where we bring community education each month to educate and promote a broad landscape for brain health. We offer CEUs to our professional audience as well. So it's a great opportunity to get those CEUs in. Tonight, our topic is SMART brain health resolutions, and that is through our health educator, Leanne Stuver, who is our presenter. I am Jonathan Yassani, and that is my colleague, Hannah Thompson. We are both care navigators in JFSA's Dementia Navigation Program. The Dementia Care Navigation Program is an awesome program where we reach out to our community and we create an empowering environment to help improve the quality of life of those who have dementia or are at risk of developing dementia, while helping family caregivers reduce the stress and burden that oftentimes occurs while caregiving. Hannah and I work with our clients' strengths with a person-centered approach by developing and implementing individualized care plans, from linking persons with dementia and their families with community resources to following them with their medical management by assuring we address their biopsychosocial needs. At JFSA, we work together as a team with a multidisciplinary group of geriatricians, nurses, social workers, and geriatric psychiatrists. So during the presentation, I want to ask all of you to go ahead and if you have any questions or concerns, just direct them to the Q&A icon, and some questions may come up during the presentation. So please feel free to go ahead and type in a question once it hits you, and we will definitely have time at the end of the presentation to go ahead and address those questions. Our presenter, Leanne Stuver, is a registered nurse with an extensive background in health education. She worked as a hospital nurse for 10 years before earning her master's degree in education. She has over 20 years experience in the planning and implementation of adult education programs at Menora Park Center for Senior Living. She has served as their director of the Rose Institute for Lifelong Learning and later became their director of lifelong learning. Ms. Stuver teaches community education classes about the importance of lifelong learning and brain health. She is passionate about educating the community in practical ways they can learn to support their health and wellness. She is an accomplished Savvy Caregiver Workshops facilitator at the JFSA, officially trained by the co-founder, co-creator of the National Savvy Caregiver Program, Dr. Carrie Sherman. Leanne has been involved in numerous speaking engagements and is currently a dementia support group and a Savvy Caregiver Workshops facilitator at the JFSA.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes.
Well, welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you could be with us here this evening. As you saw on the title slide, we're going to talk about SMART brain fitness resolutions. So let's start by first talking about whether we're the kind of person that writes New Year's resolutions or not. I wasn't ever really a person that wrote New Year's resolutions, but I think I thought about them in my head, even though I didn't specifically put them down. Now you may be thinking, okay, Leanne, it's the middle of February. Why are we talking about New Year's resolutions? Well, here's why. When I used to belong to a fitness center, this was the time of year that I usually started enjoying the fitness center again, because in January, there were all these extra people there that had come up with these fitness resolutions for the new year. And by this time in February, they were all gone. Now, why do I point that out? Many of the New Year resolutions that we make are written in a way for us to succeed. And the idea of tonight's class is for us to think about the lifestyle factors for our brain and our body that we want to improve and learn a method for setting goals for ourselves that work, that we reach those goals. So often our New Year resolutions are so lofty that they just don't make sense. So for example, this is just a list I found online, but I want you to kind of look at these and we're going to refer to them later. But I can tell you right now, they are not SMART goals. And we'll talk about why they don't fit that description later. They're good ideas that we need to think about of what we could make into good SMART goals, but they are not written as such on this list. Now, why I bring that up is there is lots of research that they are finding that brain and body health is only about 10% due to our genetics. 90% is due to other factors. And this model that you see on the screen is out of Australia, but they're universal. But our physical and our social environment is a big chunk. Our lifestyle and our health behaviors is another big chunk. And medical care, or how we take care of our chronic health conditions, is another chunk. And those all add up to the 90%. And our genetics is only about 10%. Now, why do I point this out? This means your brain health and your body health is in your hands. You have the choice to make decisions that can improve or can make worse all of these lifestyle factors. Now, there are some that are out of your control. I will give you that. Air pollution, different things like that. If you live in an area that is a problem, maybe out of your control if you can't move. But for the most part, a lot of these lifestyle factors that we're going to talk about in how we write goals tonight are within your grasp. You can make a difference for your brain health and your health of your body. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, well, how do I know which ones I should be using to write these SMART goals? And I wasn't able to make a slide, but I'm going to hold a couple of resources up for you in case you're interested in looking for them. The New York Times came out with a magazine that's called Brain Health. And I know it's a little shiny, but hopefully it's a New York Times magazine that's all about brain health. And there are several chapters in here specifically devoted to lifestyle factors that make a difference in our brain health. It looks at exercise, it looks at diet, it looks at reducing sugar. So it looks at a lot of those factors in very practical terms. So this is one resource. The other one, and some of you may have heard about it, Dr. Sanjay Gupta wrote a new book in conjunction with AARP and their Global Council on Brain Health. And it is chock full of lifestyle factors and different ways you can incorporate these changes into your life. And he doesn't specifically talk about SMART goals, but he does talk about all of these lifestyle factors and the fact that they are 90% in your control. So this Keep Sharp book is another good resource if you are looking for those items in your lifestyle to make a choice to write a SMART goal about. And I can hold these up and answer more questions later about it. But let's talk about writing goals. Tonight, we're going to talk specifically about goal setting for lifestyle factors. But this SMART goal acronym, you could use in any area of your life. You could use them for work goals. You could use them for other personal goals that don't have to do with health and wellness. You could use them in interpersonal relationship goals or volunteering, whatever you do. If you have goals you need to write, this SMART goal criteria is a great way to do it. So SMART is the acronym that we're going to use tonight. And those letters are going to stand for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Some of them overlap a little bit, and you'll see that as we talk about each one individually. But when we put the whole picture together at the end, you'll see that it makes these goals much easier for you to succeed at in meeting them. So that's the key. So let's look at the first one, S, specific. So when you write SMART goals, your goals must be specific. The more specific, the better. And this is one of the things that list I showed you at the beginning was really lacking. Your target should be very clear. You should know what you're working for. And they should also be written in performance terms. So you should know what's expected or what you expect of yourself as far as those goals go. So let's do an example. So this was one of the ones that was on that list. Exercise more. I will exercise more. Okay, well, exercising more is a good concept, but how do you know if you exercise more? It's too broad to be useful as a SMART goal. If, however, you tweak it a little and say, I will walk for 20 minutes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning for the next 4 weeks, that is much more specific. And you know what you're supposed to be doing. So it's much easier to follow and to know whether you're accomplishing it or not. That's another thing about these goals. Usually it's helpful if you really want to stick to these goals to have it written down somewhere, whether it's in a journal, in a notebook, on a bulletin board, on a whiteboard. Maybe it's on an app on your smartphone. There are lots of lifestyle trackers, diet, exercise, meditation. There's lots of different tracking apps that you can use on a tablet or a phone to help you say, yes, I did it today. No, I didn't. What's my goal? Am I meeting it? So if we have some accountability to write it down or to record it somewhere, I think it keeps us on track a lot better. Now, as far as being specific goes, there are 6 W questions that help us to make things more specific. So the first is who. Who is involved? Now, the example I gave you didn't have a who involved, but we could add a who involved. You could say, I am going to meet my next door neighbor and walk for 20 minutes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning for the next 4 weeks. So you've added a who to that factor. A lot of times, especially for fitness goals, it's really good if you have somebody else involved in it because it makes you accountable. So if you're meeting somebody to walk outside or you're meeting somebody to bike or whatever, you have a fitness buddy. And even if you don't feel like going, you know that person's going to be waiting for you. And that's a nice motivating factor. So sometimes adding this who can give you more oomph to go ahead and complete that goal. The second W is what do I want to accomplish? So that's where you need to make it specific. I want to walk 20 minutes, 3 days a week for the next 4 weeks. Where will this happen? Again, we didn't have this in, but maybe it's walk around my neighborhood. Maybe it's walk at the metro parks. Maybe it's meet at a gym and walk on the track if the weather's not good. But you could add that where in as well. When, we kind of have the when. We have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Maybe we want to even be more specific and say 10 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and make the when even more specific. There's also a which component. So are there requirements or constraints? We live in Northeast Ohio. So if our idea is that we're going to go out and walk around our neighborhood 3 mornings a week, we might have some constraints or requirements. So perhaps you don't want to be out there when there's ice underfoot because you don't want to risk a fall. My friend and I meet and walk in the morning, and we have a kind of understood rule that if the real feel is less than 10 degrees, we skip that day. So you may have those requirements or constraints that you put on as well, and it keeps you accountable to your goal. And the last is the why. Why do I want to accomplish this goal? So you need to have a purpose and to understand the benefits of why you want to do it. And I know we didn't have that in this goal, but I think our overwhelming factor is for these lifestyle things, we want to improve our health and our wellness, and we want to be able to function well throughout our life for as long as we can. And so that's the underlying why to all of these lifestyle factors. Okay, so we've got the specific part down. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Now let's talk about the M, measurable. So we have to be able to determine if we've accomplished the goal. So we have to measure it in some way, shape, or form. And being able to track our progress can motivate us. I realize sometimes if we're not doing so well at that goal, it might unmotivate us, but for the most part, we want to try to keep things positive. And we want to keep this a motivating factor. But we have to have concrete measurement criteria so that we know if we're meeting it or not. So let's change gears a little bit and let's do this one. I will start eating healthier. Okay, again, not specific enough, and it certainly can't be measured because what is eating healthier? We don't have a goal for that. It would be much better to say something like, I will eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. That's much more specific and much more measurable. At the end of the day, you can look back at your diet and say, yes, I ate 5, or no, I only ate 3 today. I'm going to try to do better tomorrow. But you can measure it. It's easy to look at it and know whether you've accomplished it. So that's the idea of measurable. Attainable is the next one. So I think one of the biggest mistakes everybody makes, especially about New Year resolutions, is that we make them way too big. And that's why all the people that show up at the fitness centers on January 2nd are not there by February 18th, because they had too lofty and unattainable goals. We do want them to be ambitious. We want them to push us, but they have to be achievable or we get frustrated and we just give up. It's much better to start with a little bit easier goal and to meet it, and then to write a new one that's a little more challenging. So in other words, you step it up gradually, but you give yourself a pat on the back as you go that you accomplish some little ones along the way. And that helps you be more accountable to these goals as well. And it gives it a more positive spin that keeps you motivated. So an example for this would be if I said, I want to lose 20 pounds this month. Well, first of all, without starving yourself, that's probably not very realistic. And it certainly is not healthy. So that would not be a good goal for weight loss. But if you said, I want to lose 1 pound a week for the next 2 months, that is a much more healthier and attainable goal. It's also measurable. You can know whether you achieve it or not. And I think it's specific enough that you know whether you've accomplished it as well. So we're going to keep adding them all together here. The R in SMART goals is realistic. So the first thing about being realistic is these goals need to be important to you, not because a family member or a friend or a boss or a coworker wants you to do it. So if you think back to goals you've maybe had, maybe a spouse or a partner or a sibling has said, you need to lose weight. Well, I don't know about you, but that's not very motivating to me if somebody else thinks I need to lose weight. It needs to be something I need to do. Same thing with exercise. Just because your family member thinks you should take up jogging, that doesn't mean that that sounds like a good idea to you. So these lifestyle goals need to be important to you, and it doesn't matter what anybody around you thinks of them. They also need to be practical for your circumstances. So just like our idea about the walking outside in the sub-zero weather or in icy conditions, that would be one. If you live in Hawaii and your goal would be to learn to go cross-country skiing, that would not be practical for your circumstances. So you have to, unless you were going to travel to Colorado to do it or whatever, but you need to write the goals so they're practical where you are, what season it is, what your resources are. So they need to make sense. They need to be realistic for you. And they need to be motivating for you, not motivating according to somebody else. They need to be what gets you to keep up on them. That's what's important. So perhaps we would say, attend an exercise class every day. Okay, for most of us, that is probably unrealistic. Life gets in the way that attending an exercise class for most people every day is probably not going to work. But maybe you can attend an exercise class at least 2 days a week and exercise at home some of those other days. That would be much more realistic and attainable. And maybe you start with 2 days a week. Once that has become a habit for you, then maybe you add a third day a week. And maybe by the end of 6 months, you've built up to 5 days a week. So again, building these incremental goals in so that you can attain a more realistic one on a shorter level and then build up is a much better way to do it. The last one is time bound. So you have to have some semblance of time to know whether you've completed it or not. So if we don't have this time frame for completion, it could just feel like we're like a hamster on a wheel of, are we done? Are we done? Or are we just keeping on going? We need to have an end point. So putting either a date or a time gives us an urgency or an accountability for that. And it also helps us reassess. So at the end of that time, if it's not working, maybe we need to change the goal. Maybe we need to make it more specific or measurable or realistic or attainable. Whatever we're missing, we need to assess and fix it so it's better. Just saying, I'm going to do something someday is never motivating enough for any of us. We need to be accountable time-wise. So for a lot of years, I said, I want to learn to meditate. And every year I said, I want to learn to meditate. Well, I had no plan in place, so I never learned to meditate. This year, I've done a much better job and actually practiced what I've been preaching. And I thought about it in a SMART goals way. And what I said was, I'm going to sign up for a weekly meditation class, and I'm going to practice for 10 minutes every morning. So I have a couple of time frames. I'm going to do it once a week, and I'm going to practice for 10 minutes. It's also measurable because I can know whether I do it or not. So again, by the time we get to this T, we've kind of involved them all into this one package. And like I said, several of them overlap, but by breaking it down into little parts, you make yourself more successful. And I can tell you, I still am not practicing 10 minutes every morning. So I still have to adjust this to work for me, but I am doing it several times a week, which is better than I was doing before when I just was saying, I want to learn to meditate. So I've made progress. I'm not there yet. I have to reassess, but I'm making progress, and I can recognize it because I have that goal that makes sense to me, that I can tell whether I've accomplished the goal. So as we use SMART goals, I want you to prioritize your brain health. So there's a saying that whatever's good for your brain is good for your body. You may hear it the other way. Whatever is good for your body is good for your brain. And that's true. It goes both ways. But since we're really the Brain Health and Wellness Initiative here, I'd really like you to think about those things that are brain health related that you can prioritize in these goals. And by prioritizing your brain health, your body will benefit as well. So by eating a better diet, that benefits your brain and your body. Now, I'm not saying these in SMART goals terms, but in general. Exercise, by increasing your exercise, it also benefits your body and your brain. Maybe it's sleep. Maybe it's improving your sleep. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's other stress relief factors. There's all different lifestyle factors that benefit your brain that your body will benefit from as well. Now, I've given you the basics of what these SMART goals look like, and now I'm hoping that we can practice a little bit. So I'm hoping maybe somebody has a goal. Maybe you think you've got a SMART goal and you would be willing to type it into the Q&A, or maybe you have a goal that you'd like us to help you put it into this SMART goal format. Whichever the case may be, maybe it's just a topic that you'd like to hear how to put it into a SMART goal. So if you have one of those, put it in the Q&A and Jonathan will read it to me, and then we can talk about how to get it into this SMART format. Or if you have a question about how to do it, you can ask that here as well. If you need a minute to think about it, that's okay too.
A viewer raised their hand.
Okay. I don't think we can unmute people, can
Yeah,
we,
that's what I was wondering too. Someone's asking about decluttering.
Okay. Just decluttering as just a general?
Probably a goal to declutter, yeah.
Okay, so let's look at that as far as SMART goals. So I'm going to assume we need to declutter the whole house. Let's just use that as our overwhelming format. So in order to make it more specific, a good way would be to start with one room. Or if you really have a lot to declutter, maybe it's just one area of one room. So let's say, for example, we're going to start in your den, if you have a den, and we're just going to start on your desk. So let's just take one small spot, one specific area, and we're going to say, we are going to declutter your desk. And maybe we're going to say, I am going to spend 30 minutes every morning for the next 2 weeks straightening up my desk. So let's see if I hit them all. Specific. Okay, we just took the desk, so that's specific. We said 30 minutes every morning for the next 2 weeks. So that's kind of time-based. We set a time. That also means it's measurable. We can tell whether we spent that 30 minutes or not. So we didn't set a goal by how much we cleaned. We set a goal by the time we were going to spend. Is it attainable? Probably. If I had said I'm going to spend 30 minutes every morning for the next 2 weeks to declutter my whole house, we would say no, that is not attainable or realistic or relevant. Sometimes you'll see some of these go with different words. This one, relevant, realistic, they go hand in hand. But the fact that you started in one area and you set a time and you set a goal, you could start and then you could branch out. And then maybe you did another area of the room. And then once you got that room done, you could go to another room. And maybe it's your dining room table that needs to be decluttered next. Maybe it's a china cabinet. Maybe it's a file cabinet. Just do it in manageable chunks. And that would be the way to make that overall, I need to declutter into very SMART goal chunks. So hopefully that made sense and is helpful.
Yeah, and also the person was specifically talking about papers in an office. So okay. It's kind of nice that you tackled the desk. But so yeah, so basically if it's one specific thing to the same kind of design here.
Yeah, and you also could even, specify more. You could say, I'm going to set up a filing system. So I'm going to buy some folders and I'm going to file all this paperwork. Maybe some of it gets tossed, but maybe some of it needs to be kept. So maybe you need to design a filing system. So that might be another way. First, you get rid of the clutter on your desk. Then the stuff you want to keep, you figure out how to file it so it makes sense to you. So that's even breaking down even more. But some of those big house decluttering it, or even if you're cleaning out a house for someone else, that can be a very overwhelming job. And so that you don't get frustrated, break it down into those smaller, more attainable and measurable chunks to make it easier for you to stick with it and to feel like you're making a dent in the big job.
How would you establish a goal to reduce stress?
You know, there are a lot of stress reduction techniques out there, and some work better for some people other than others. So a good first goal would be maybe just to try some. So perhaps your goal would be to identify, and maybe this wouldn't even be a goal, but you would just identify some. So exercise can be a stress reduction technique. Meditation can be a stress reduction technique. Yoga, listening to music, socialization can be a stress reduction technique. So maybe you pick one of them and you use that for a week and write it in. So let's say we pick yoga. Let's say we're going to take yoga, and we'll say, I will do yoga 3 days a week for the next 2 weeks and assess my stress level. And that's maybe a little hard to measure, but maybe you check your blood pressure and see if your blood pressure has come down. Maybe you check your heart rate. I know a lot of people went out and bought those little pulse oximeters during COVID so that they would have those if they got sick and they knew what their oxygen level is. Most of those also check your pulse if you're not comfortable checking it for real. But if your heart rate reduces when you're doing these things, or your blood pressure comes down, that shows that you have reduced your stress level. Maybe you compare it to how you sleep. When people are very stressed, it's difficult to sleep. So maybe if by doing these yoga things, you find your sleep is better. So I guess you first have to figure out what you want to try, and then you decide how to write it as a SMART goal. So you could pick a practice like yoga or meditation, or maybe even music. Maybe you just want to say, I will sit and listen to music for 15 minutes every evening before I go to bed for the next 2 weeks. You'll know whether you did it or not. And then kind of peripherally, you can see if it makes you more relaxed before you go to bed, if you get a better night's sleep. Maybe you have a stressful time during the day that you would rather do this. Maybe you'd rather do it on your lunch break and see if you get through your day at work more productively, or your day as a caregiver more productively. So I guess for stress reduction, first you need to pick what you want to try to use as a tool for stress reduction. And you can Google stress reducing and find lots of things to try, and then pick one and fit into this SMART goal format and try it out and see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, pick one of the other ones and keep going at it like that in order to address the stress in your life.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And also, I think too, like when you recognize what stresses you out, and
Yeah.
putting that down and comparing it to how often you are getting stressed out throughout the week while you're, participating in these stress reduction techniques.
Right.
Just,
And if the thing that stresses you out, you could have some control over, and maybe even have a goal. Let's say it's a phone call with a sibling that stresses you out, and your sibling calls you every day. Well, maybe for your stress relief, you need to write a goal that you're only going to talk to your sibling twice a week. And that's part. So if there's something that is stressing you out, and you can write a SMART goal to start avoiding it or reducing those run-ins with it. I realize some of them you cannot get away from. caregiving of a relative you can't just necessarily just get away from unless you get some time away, respite. But if there's things that are under your control that you can limit or do something about, you could write those into a SMART goal format as well.
Mhm. Does anyone else have any questions about putting a certain goal into the formula that you'd like Leanne to help you work through? Just give it a minute or two. And then also, please feel free to ask any questions that you have in general about the SMART formula and establishing goals in general, or any other techniques that can help you, set achievable goals.
Or even areas of brain health that you may wonder if that's a good area to set SMART goals for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And the participant that raised your hand, if you still have a question, if you're able to, just put it in the Q&A, unless it was an accident or we were able to answer it, then that's good. Unfortunately, we can't unmute on the webinar. Or if we can, I can't. So Leanne, does one need to write these goals down for them to be successful?
My gut reaction to that is yes. So I think we can often keep some of these goals in our head, but we lose track of them that way. And I think we can be a lot more accountable to ourselves and to our goals if we have some way to record them. So maybe, it's just a notebook or a journal. I have a couple of different things on my phone. I have a MyFitnessPal app that I add like my food that I eat into it. And it also, I can add the exercise. And then I can set goals for myself in that app of how many steps I want to get, how many minutes of cardiovascular exercise I want to get, how many calories I want to have each day. And if you're truthful and add it in there, then it helps keep yourself accountable. And I know as far as food and exercise goes, I always have a goal to keep a certain weight, and then it figures out what calories I want. And I'll tell you, I got lackadaisical last year with this due to some family issues and COVID and everything changing. And I said this year I was going to start putting things back in my phone, and I already can tell a difference. So last year, I got away from putting my food in there. I got away from putting my exercise in there, and I gained weight. And this year I said I was not going to let that happen again. And so we're 6-7 weeks into the new year, and I can already tell I'm getting back on track better just by writing it down. Even if I cheat, I still put it in here because it's still there. I can look back, but I know it makes me think twice about skipping exercise, because I look at those calorie totals and it's 5 o'clock at night and I have 200 calories left. And I'm thinking, well, I need to eat more than 200 calories for dinner. So I'm going to eat my dinner, and then I'm going to exercise this evening. And then it's going to even that calorie out. So I'm holding myself accountable. Now, it's not exactly written as a SMART goal, but it is a goal, a way to track your goals. So there's sleep tracking apps. There are other lifestyle. You can track your meditation. You can track other types of exercise and activity. There's a multitude of them. There's Google products, there's Apple products, there's all kinds of free types of lifestyle trackers. But I think they hold us accountable and they make us be truthful, because I know in my head, if a week goes by, I don't remember looking back which days I actually exercised last week and which ones I didn't. But if I have it recorded somewhere, I can know. And if I only did exercise one day last week and my goal is 3, then I know I need to change something this week because I didn't achieve my goal last week. So I think whether it's written or maybe a checklist or an app, but I think it helps you be much more accountable to know if your goal is working, and maybe you haven't written it well for yourself and you need to change it. If several weeks go by and you're not doing it, then maybe you need to write a new goal because you need to start seeing some success in order to stick with it. So recording it in some way, shape, or form, I think you have to do in order to be successful.
How could you make a socialization goal in times of the current pandemic?
It's a good question. You know, the one good thing about the pandemic, and I know there's not many, but one of the good things is that apps like programs like Zoom, like Skype, like FaceTime, like Duo, all of the social connectedness things across the computer and on our smartphones have just proliferated. And so for socialization, you could set yourself a goal that you're going to attend one interactive social event each week. Maybe you're going to make sure you make 3 phone calls to friends or relatives each week. Maybe you're going to write a letter to at least 2 people every week. You're going to write emails to someone so many days a week. There are a lot of creative ways you can get to be social. Now, I realize right now, because of the weather, we've kind of lost the ability to do anything outside, but hopefully spring is around the corner, and then we can have some driveway get-togethers again, some porch get-togethers. So we can schedule those type of social get-togethers, but don't be afraid. I realize this webinar is not really a socialization, but there are a lot of classes available at the local libraries, at the local senior centers that are interactive, that you can get on with a bunch of other people in a more gallery view, and you can talk about a subject, maybe learn about things. If Zoom is free and you can set up a free account and you can have a 40-minute Zoom meeting for free, and you can invite your friends, and you could have a morning coffee group. You can all have your coffee or your morning, whatever you eat for breakfast, and you could sit and talk about your day. Especially if that was something that you did, if you got together with people, you can do it via Zoom. Yes, it's different, but it's still socialization. So any of those things that you can try to increase from where you are right now, you can write them as a goal. I will send 2 emails to friends next week to increase my socialization. I will make phone calls. I will set up a Zoom room with my friends. So there are lots of creative ways, and you can even meet new people by joining some of the virtual things at the libraries that they host, and you can meet new people that way. So just get on the internet and look and see what's out there. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, then find something else. There's lots of opportunities out there that we can stay safe and still stay social, even though we're in the midst of a pandemic.
What if I can't make myself stick to a goal?
My first response to that would be that it's probably maybe too big of a goal. So you may need to back off and start much smaller. So I don't know what the goal is, but try to think of a way to make it smaller and more attainable, because then if you can accomplish that one, then you can make another one. And I think that's the biggest thing about goal setting. We want to make our goals small so we can reach them. We still want them to push us, but we want to be able to accomplish it in a short period of time to give us the confidence to set a new one. And then once you meet that one, you write one that's a little harder and a little harder. And as you continue to do these things, especially regarding lifestyle, they become more of a habit. And if we can make them more habits, before we know it, we're doing it without thinking about it. And then it becomes part of our lifestyle. So we have to set it as a goal. Then it becomes more of a habit. And once we stop thinking about it and we do it every day, then it's part of our lifestyle. And that means we've really succeeded in that goal. But then I want you to set a goal about something else. We should have a goal about something every day. So whatever it is that you're having trouble with, back it up, make it smaller and more attainable, and have success with that first, and then move on.
Thank you, Leanne. Just see if we have any other questions. Would you recommend setting more smaller and attainable goals on performance evaluations for work?
If you're using the SMART goal format, I would say yes. I would say you maybe have 2 or 3 smaller ones that lead to a big one. Personally, I would find that better as an employee to be able to see some progress to that big corporate goal. So, or especially for somebody that's maybe on some type of a performance improvement plan, that if they were able to have those small attainable sub goals that all lead to the bigger goal. You know, every employee is different, but especially for somebody that struggles with the big picture, I think having smaller attainable goals would help everybody stay on the same page and reach that ultimate goal altogether a little bit better. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and it makes sense. So I think we answered all the questions. If anybody has a question that comes to mind later on today or throughout the week, please feel free to contact one of us. Our contact information will be.
It'll be coming in, yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just summarize real quick before we get to that. So I want you to practice using this SMART goal system, whether it's with lifestyle things, whether it's with work things, but practice. It will take practice for you to get used to doing it. It's not like you can just go write these fabulous SMART goals. So practice using it, see what works for you, what doesn't. But try to use this whenever you set a goal for yourself, because it will just keep you more accountable. But I also encourage you to make brain health a priority with those lifestyle goals that you're setting. And start small and continue to set bigger goals for yourself so that you can be successful. And I want to thank you all for being here. We'll skip this question page since we kind of did that first. And Jonathan, I'll go to yours.
Oh, thank you. So yes, if we didn't get to a question that comes about, actually, I think we just got another one. Let me check here.
We can do that.
Someone's asking about brain mapping. Is this a tool to work on certain tasks?
You know, it's been a while since I read things on brain mapping, and I know that there's different areas of the brain that do different things for us. And I know that there's a lot of research out there ongoing. I'm not sure the average person can do that much with the brain mapping themselves. And I'm not going to speak to this really because I'm not sure, but I can look it up and I can make sure that Jonathan gets the information and we can get it out to everybody. So let me write that down. I think it's probably a little more specific into what goes on in the brain than the overall idea of goals. But it may coincide and I'm just not aware of that. So I will try to do a little research on that and make sure that the information gets out to everybody.
Yeah, I'm anxious to learn more about that. That sounds really interesting. I did want everyone to know that there will be a link available to retrieve the presentation in PDF form. And we also highly encourage all to complete our survey, which you will receive through the email that you registered for the class. If you are wanting CEUs, it is mandatory to complete the survey. So I did want everyone to know that. And here's my contact information and my colleague Hannah, her contact information. So if you guys have any questions about our dementia care navigation program, please feel free to reach out to either one of us, and we would be more than happy to discuss the program with you and help, you know, if you're a caregiver, reduce the stress and burden that you may be going through, or if you have someone that you're caring for that needs more support, we're here to help you guys. So please jot down our information and we will be more than happy to sit down and have a nice talk. And so as I mentioned earlier, we do work, Hannah and I work along with Nicole, our other colleague, we work as a team. And these are our geriatricians that are part of the dementia team. We have Dr. O'Toole and Dr. Magulius. They both have years of experience in working with patients with their memory, cognitive decline issues. They're both memory specialists. So they work together with us, help creating our care plans. And it's really nice because we can easily get a hold of one another and really be there for the client in a short amount of time, where you don't have to go through leaps and bounds to get a hold of a doctor and get something in motion. And here is Leanne's contact information and our colleague Nicole, who helps get everyone registered for this class tonight. And here's some additional resources. We do have our Savvy Caregiver Workshops program that Leanne facilitates. And that is a 6-week program. And it's not a support group, it's actually a training for family caregivers to learn self-care techniques, to understand approaches and understandings behind behaviors associated with dementia. We have our support group also over Zoom, and that is the second and fourth Monday between 1:30 and 2:30. And as I mentioned,
Savvy's virtual also.
yes, Savvy is virtual for now. Hopefully one day we can all meet together in person. And along with our dementia care navigation, we have our respite and supportive home care program as well. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to either Hannah or me and we can discuss that. And again, if you want to register for the Savvy or the dementia support group, please contact Nicole Herbert Hale. Her phone number is here at the bottom of the slide. So our next webinar is going to be the science behind emotional wellness and our brain. And Leanne's going to be our presenter that night. It's going to be Thursday, March 25th between 6:30 and 7:30. Please reach out to Nicole to register. I look forward to having everyone here again. And thank you so much for attending. I hope everyone has a really nice evening and I hope everyone learned something tonight. And I look forward to any questions. Actually, I think I just got one in. I'll just look real quick. Oh, a viewer was saying, thanks so much. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you to everyone for coming.
Yeah. And you have our info, so please reach out if you have any questions and have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Leanne.